Who really killed the Copper King? The Clark Mansion Mystery, March South, 1925. A bitter winter wind howls down Fifth Avenue in New York City, rattling the windows of a towering Beaux-Arts palace at number 1962. Inside, amid marble halls echoing with silence, an 86-year-old man gasps his final breaths. William Andrews Clark, the Copper King, lies dying of pneumonia in the opulent bedchamber of his 121-room mansion, a fortress of imported French limestone, bronze doors, and gilded ceilings that cost $7 million to build, over $120 million today. Servants whisper in hidden corridors, family members gather in shadowed parlours. But as the life slips from this self-made titan, whose copper mines in Montana forged an empire worth $300 million, questions linger in the air like smoke from his private railcar's chimney. This was no ordinary home. Spanning 9 stories with a 64-foot-high tower, it boasted 26 bedrooms, 31 bathrooms, 5 art galleries housing masterpieces by Rubens and Van Dyck, a theatre for 200 guests, and an organ with 4,000 pipes. Yet beneath the grandeur lurked darker currents, bitter feuds with rival copper kings, bribery scandals that rocked the US Senate, and a family fractured by secrets. Clark's death marked the end of an era, but it birthed enduring enigmas. Why did his reclusive daughter Huguette abandon this palace, and others, letting them stand empty for decades? What scandals eroded his legacy? And in a deeper sense, who or what truly killed the Copper King? His ruthless ambition, his enemies, or the very excess that defined the Gilded Age? This documentary uncovers the hidden truths behind the Clark Mansion, peeling back layers of wealth and whispers to reveal untold stories of power, betrayal, and isolation. From Montana's brutal mines to Manhattan's vanished marvel, we promise revelations that challenge history's polished facade. But one question haunts every corner. In building his dream, did Clark sow the seeds of his own destruction? Chapter 1. The Dying Titan. March 2nd, 1925. A raw wind claws down Fifth Avenue, rattling the bronze gates of a limestone colossus at number 962. Inside the Clark Mansion, the air is heavy with the scent of polished oak and fading roses. William Andrews Clark, 86, lies in a carved mahogany bed, his shallow breaths echoing in a chamber vast enough to hold a village church. Velvet drapes block the grey light. A fire crackles faintly, casting shadows on walls inlaid with sienna marble. Servants move like ghosts through hidden passages, their footsteps muffled by the weight of silence. Somewhere in the 121-room palace, a 4,000-pipe organ stands mute, its gilded pipes reflecting no music tonight. The Copper King, whose Montana mines churned out a $300 million fortune, is slipping away, his empire of copper, railroads and banks now a distant hum beneath the rasp of pneumonia. This is no ordinary deathbed. The mansion, a Beaux-Arts marvel, sprawls across a 250-foot frontage on millionaires' Orbeau's Row, its 64-foot tower piercing the Manhattan sky. Built for $7 million, over $120 million in today's dollars, it boasts 26 bedrooms, 31 bathrooms, 5 art galleries brimming with Rubens and Van Dyck masterpieces, and a private theatre seating 200. Crystal chandeliers gleam above staircases of imported Numidian marble. Electric elevators hum behind panelled walls. Yet the grandeur feels hollow. Clark's children, scattered across the country, are absent or estranged. His youngest daughter, Huguette, a shy 18-year-old, hovers nearby, her delicate frame dwarfed by the opulence. Whispers swirl among the staff. Why does the family seem so fractured? What secrets linger in these halls? Clark's life was a saga of relentless ambition. Born in a Pennsylvania log cabin in 1839, he clawed his way from surveyor to banker to copper magnate, outsmarting rivals in Montana's brutal War of the Copper Kings. His mines powered America's electrical age, wiring cities and fueling skyscrapers. But power came at a cost. In 1899, he bribed his way into the US Senate, only to face a scandal that forced his resignation. Enemies like Marcus Daly, another copper baron, hounded him. Newspapers branded him a ruthless monopolist. His wealth built this mansion, completed in 1911 after a decade of construction, as a defiant monument to his triumph. Yet as he dies, the palace feels more like a mausoleum than a home. The paradox is stark. Clark's mansion was meant to cement his legacy, a stage for lavish balls and political summits. Instead, it stands half empty, its 60,000 square feet echoing with solitude. Huguette, his heiress, will soon retreat into reclusion, abandoning this house and others, letting them sit vacant for decades. Why? The question gnaws like the wind outside. Was it the weight of wealth, the shadow of scandal, or something darker? A betrayal, a feud, a hidden truth. The official record says pneumonia took Clark, but the real mystery is what killed his dream. Did his ruthless tactics in Montana's mines sow enemies who outlasted him? Did family secrets buried in these gilded walls unravel his dynasty? Or was the mansion itself, its excess, its isolation, a mirror of the Gilded Age's fatal flaws? This documentary will unravel these threads, tracing Clark's rise from frontier grit to Manhattan splendor and his fall into obscurity. We'll explore the mansion's construction, a feat of engineering that rivaled the Vanderbilt's Biltmore, and the unseen labourers, Irish immigrants, skilled carpenters, black porters, who built it. We'll uncover the daily grind of the 40-person staff, from scullery maids to French chefs, who kept this machine humming at a cost of $150,000 a year, nearly $3 million today. We'll probe the crises that shook Clark's world, the Senate scandal, bitter rivalries, and the economic shifts that dimmed copper's shine. And we'll follow the mansion's strange afterlife from Huguette's abandonment to its demolition in 1927, replaced by a banal apartment block, as if history erased Clark's ambition. Each chapter will peel back a layer. We'll meet Clark the visionary, a man who saw copper as America's future, and Clark the pariah, shunned by New York's elite. We'll walk the hidden corridors where servants toiled, their stories drowned by the clink of champagne glasses. We'll confront the human cost, not just Clark's, but the miners who died in his butte shafts, the workers who carved his marble under brutal deadlines. And we'll ask what this palace, now vanished, says about wealth, power, and memory, in a city that builds and buries its titans. As Clark's eyes close for the last time, a clock chimes in the grand hall, its echo swallowed by the vastness. The Copper King is gone, but his story is not. This is no mere tale of bricks and bronze, it's a mystery of ambition and ruin, of a man who built a fortress to defy time, only to find time keeps no promises. What drove him to such heights? What pulled him down? The answers lie ahead, in the shadows of a mansion that was both his triumph and his tomb. Chapter 2. The Spark of Ambition. William Andrews. Clark's death in his Fifth Avenue palace in 1925 marked the end of a saga that began not in marble halls, but on a rutted Montana trail, under a blistering summer sun. To understand the mansion that became his monument and his cage, we must rewind to the 1860s, when a wiry young man, with piercing eyes and a surveyor's precision, set his sights on a raw frontier. Clark's vision for the 121-room Beaux-Arts masterpiece at 962 Fifth Avenue, built for $7 million to rival the Vanderbilts, was born in the copper-laced hills of Butte, Montana, fueled by a hunger that transformed a penniless prospector into the Copper King. But who was this man, and why did he choose New York's most coveted address to stake his claim? Born January 8, 1839 in a log cabin in Connellsville, Pennsylvania, Clark grew up in a world of hard-scrabble farms and coal dust. The second of 9 children, he learned early that survival demanded cunning. At 14, he taught school. At 20, he studied law and geology at Iowa Wesleyan College, sharpening his mind for the opportunities of a restless nation. The Civil War's chaos and the 1860s gold rushes beckoned. In 1863, at 24, Clark joined the flood of dreamers heading west, landing in Bannock, Montana, a lawless mining camp where gold fever burned hotter than the July sun. Here, in a tent city of mud and whiskey, his ambition took root. Clark didn't swing a pickaxe for long. He saw wealth not in panning streams, but in supplying miners. With $200, he started freighting goods, flour, tobacco, tools, across treacherous trails. By 1866, he was banking in Deer Lodge, lending to prospectors at 2% monthly interest, amassing $100,000, about $2 million today. But it was Butte, a scruffy hill town 70 miles east, that changed everything. By 1872, Clark's geological training told him Butte's silver mines hid a deeper prize: copper. America's electrical age was dawning. Telegraphs, streetlights, and factories demanded the metal. Clark bet his fortune on it, buying claims like the Trevona and original mines for $10,000, a gamble that would yield billions. Why Butte? Its hills were a geological jackpot, veined with copper ore that assay offices valued at 30% purity, triple the national average. By 1880, Clark's smelters processed 1,000 tons daily, employing 3,000 men. His Anaconda Copper Company, co-founded in 1881, crushed rivals like Marcus Daly, sparking the War of the Copper Kings, a brutal feud of sabotage, lawsuits, and dynamite. Clark's wealth soared to $50 million by 1890, $1.6 billion today, but he craved more: respect. Montana's roughneck image chafed him. New York, the nation's cultural and financial capital, became his obsession. A mansion on Fifth Avenue, outshining the Astors and Morgans, would prove he was no frontier upstart. The economic context fueled his audacity. The Gilded Age, spanning the 1870s to 1900, was a carnival of excess. Industrialists like Carnegie and Rockefeller built empires. Railroads stitched the nation. Cities exploded. New York's Millionaires' Row, along Fifth Avenue, was the ultimate stage. The Vanderbilt's 1882 mansion at 1665th set the bar. 137 rooms, $3 million. Clark, arriving in 1895 after buying a brownstone at 77th Street, studied his rivals. His vision crystallized: a palace blending French Renaissance elegance with American bravado, a 250-foot wide edifice to house his art collection, 200 paintings, including Corot's Dance of the Nymphs, and host senators and tycoons. It would say unequivocally, "I have arrived." Yet Clark's ambition hid contradictions. He was a devout Methodist who banned liquor in his mines, but bribed Montana legislators with $100,000 to secure a Senate seat in 1899, a scandal that would haunt him. He adored his children, 6 from his first wife Kate, who died in 1893, and 2, including Huguette, from his second wife Anna, but his workaholic drive left them distant. He preached self-reliance, yet his wealth insulated him from consequence. These tensions shaped his New York dream. The mansion wasn't just a home, it was a fortress against snobbery, a bid to rewrite his story as a cultured titan, not a Montana brawler. By 1900, as Clark sketched plans for 962 Fifth Avenue, Butte's mines were a world away, yet their profits, $5 million annually, made it possible. The location at 77th Street was strategic, central, visible, elite. He hired French architect Henri Deglaine, an American firm lord Hewlett and Hull, demanding a design that fused Parisian grandeur with technological might. The stage was set for a decade-long construction saga, one that would test his wealth and will. Chapter 3: A monument forged in sweat and stone. William Andrews Clark's vision for a 121-room Beaux-Arts palace at 962 Fifth Avenue was a bold stroke on paper, a defiant bid to outshine New York's elite. But by 1901, as architects' sketches gave way to scaffolding, the dream collided with reality. Building a 60,000-square-foot mansion, 250 feet wide, 9 stories tall, with a 64-foot tower, demanded more than his $300 million copper fortune. It required a small army of labourers, rare materials from 3 continents, and engineering feats to rival a skyscraper. The decade-long construction of the Clark Mansion, costing $7 million, over $120 million today, was a saga of ambition, innovation, and unseen toil. How did Clark turn a city block into a monument? And at what cost to those who built it? The design process began in 1898, when Clark hired French architect Henri Deglaine, famed for Paris's Grand Palais, and American firm Lord, Hewlett and Hull, to blend European elegance with American scale. The Beaux-Arts style, grand, symmetrical, ornate, was perfect for Clark's goal: a mansion to eclipse the Vanderbilt's 1882 chateau. Deglaine's plans called for a limestone facade inspired by French chateau, with Corinthian columns and bronze gates. Inside, 26 bedrooms, 31 bathrooms, 5 art galleries, a 200-seat theatre, and a 4,000-pipe organ demanded space and precision. The footprint alone, covering 25 city lots, required demolishing Clark's old brownstone and buying adjacent land for $1.2 million, $40 million today. Sourcing materials was a global quest. The facade's limestone came from Bedford, Indiana, chosen for its creamy hue. 10,000 tons were shipped by rail. Interior marble, pink Numidian from Algeria, green Tinos from Greece, arrived via steamship, each slab hand-cut to fit. Oak panelling for the dining hall was harvested from English forests. Bronze for the gates was cast in Paris. The organ built by Hilborn Roosevelt required 4,000 custom pipes, some 32 feet long, installed over 2 years. Clark's art collection, 200 paintings including Van Dyck's Portrait of a Lady, needed climate-controlled galleries with steel-reinforced walls. Every detail screamed extravagance, but also complexity. Coordinating shipments across oceans and railroads took military precision. The labour force was the project's heartbeat. Over 1,000 workers, masons, carpenters, electricians and plumbers, swarmed the site at peak. Many were Irish immigrants, drawn to New York's construction boom, earning $2.50 a day, about $80 today, for 10-hour shifts. Skilled artisans, like Italian marble cutters, commanded $5 daily, while black labourers, often relegated to hauling debris, earned $1.50. A 1903 payroll ledger lists 600 men, including names like Patrick O'Malley, a bricklayer, and James Carter, a porter. Women, though rare, included seamstresses crafting drapes for $1 a day. Clark's contractors, Norcross Brothers, enforced grueling schedules. Injuries were common. Scaffolding collapses crushed limbs and stone. Dust-choked lungs. A 1905 newspaper reported 2 deaths when a crane dropped a limestone block, though Clark's wealth hushed further scrutiny. Technical challenges loomed large. The mansion's steel skeleton, a nod to skyscraper engineering, supported 9 floors and a tower, requiring 2,000 tons of steel from Pittsburgh. 4 elevators, electric, not hydraulic, were cutting edge for 1901, each costing $15,000. The heating system, with 6 coal-fired boilers, piped steam through 10 miles of copper tubing to 200 radiators, burning 500 tons of coal annually. Electric wiring for 1,000 light fixtures demanded a private generator, as Con Edison's grid couldn't handle the load. The roof, clad in green copper, leaked during 1907 rains, delaying occupancy. Each hurdle pushed costs higher. By 1909, overruns added $2 million to the budget. Clark's innovations were bold. He insisted on fireproofing, steel beams encased in concrete, after Chicago's 1871 fire. The organ's pneumatic system, controlled by a 200-switch console, was a mechanical marvel, audible 3 blocks away. Hidden passages for servants totaling 5,000 square feet ensured the family's privacy, with dumbwaiters linking kitchens to dining rooms, 80 feet above. Yet these advances came at a human cost. Workers faced 60-hour weeks. Strikes in 1904 over wages were crushed by Clark's lawyers. A carpenter's diary, found in a 1920s archive, describes hands bleeding from chisels, no rest till dark. The contrast was stark. Clark's wealth grew by $5 million yearly from butte mines, while labourers scraped by on $600 a year. By 1911, the mansion stood complete, its limestone glowing under gaslight. Clark moved in with his wife Anna and daughters Andre and Huguette, hosting a ball for 500 guests that November. The New York Times called it a triumph of opulence, but rivals sneered. Mrs. Astor dubbed it gaudy. Clark cared little. His palace was a statement, not a plea for approval. Yet the construction's toll lingered. Workers returned to tenements. Some, disabled by injuries, begged on Bowery streets. The mansion's beauty hid their scars, just as it masked Clark's own battles, Senate scandals, rivalries with Marcus Daly, and a family drifting apart. Chapter 4. The Gilded Cage. In November 1911, the bronze gates of 962 Fifth Avenue swung open, and William Andrews Clark stepped into his $7 million Beaux-Arts palace, its limestone facade aglow under Manhattan's gaslights. The Clark Mansion, a 121-room marvel spanning 60,000 square feet, was no mere home. It was a stage for a copper magnate's triumph. For a fleeting moment, its 26 bedrooms, 5 art galleries, and 200-seat theatre buzzed with life, hosting senators and socialites. Yet beneath the glittering surface, the mansion was a machine of relentless demands, its grandeur sustained by a hidden army of servants and staggering costs. What was it like to live in this colossus at its peak, and what cracks in Clark's dream began to show? The mansion's first occupancy was a spectacle. On December 15, 1911, Clark threw a ball for 500 guests, including J.P. Morgan and Governor John Dix. The Grand Hall, with its 30-foot ceilings and Numidian marble columns, shimmered under 200 electric chandeliers. A 50-piece orchestra played in the theatre, while waiters served champagne and oysters from a kitchen 3 stories below. Clark, 72, stood beside his wife, Anna, 34, and daughters Andre, 9, and Huguette, 5, his $300 million fortune on display. His art collection, 200 paintings including Corot's Dance of the Nymphs, drew gasps. The 4,000-pipe organ thundered Bach. The New York Times gushed, but rivals whispered, "Too ostentatious, too nouveau riche." Daily life was a choreographed ballet. A staff of 40, butlers, maids, chefs, and engineers, kept the mansion humming. The hierarchy was rigid. The English butler, earning $100 a year, $40,000 today, oversaw French chefs, $800, and Irish housemaids, $300. Servants lived in cramped 8th-floor quarters, rising at 5 a.m. to stoke 6 coal boilers, which burned 500 tons annually to heat 10 miles of copper pipes. The kitchen, a 1,500 square foot warren, churned out meals for family and staff. A 1912 ledger shows $10,000 spent yearly on provisions, $330,000 today. 4 elevators whirred constantly, carrying linens or trays. Hidden passages, 5,000 square feet of secret corridors, let maids move unseen, preserving the illusion of effortless luxury. The mansion's social life was its pulse. Clark hosted weekly dinners for 20, wooing senators to bolster his tarnished 1899 Senate bid. Anna, a harpist, held musicales in the Louis XVI salon, its gilded panels imported from Paris. Huguette and André, tutored at home, played in a nursery stuffed with French dolls. But the elite shunned Clark. Mrs. Astor never called. His Montana roots and bribery scandal clung like dust. Still, he pressed on, loaning paintings to the Metropolitan Museum, his galleries rivaling public institutions. A 1913 guestbook lists 1,200 visitors, yet few were true peers. Most were business allies or curious onlookers. The hidden costs were staggering. Annual operating expenses hit $150,000, $5 million today, including $40,000 for staff wages, $20,000 for coal and electricity, and $15,000 for taxes. The organ's tuning cost $2,000 yearly. Maintaining 31 bathrooms with their gold-plated fixtures ate $5,000. Clark's butte mines, yielding $5 million annually, covered it, but his health was fading. Rheumatism slowed him by 1914. Anna, protective, limited events. Huguette, shy even then, hid from guests. The mansion, built for spectacle, felt oversized for a family of 4. A butler's 1915 memoir notes empty rooms, silent galleries, a stark contrast to the bustle Clark envisioned. Human stories reveal the strain. Mary Kelly, a 22-year-old maid, scrubbed marble floors for 12-hour shifts, her $25 monthly wage, sent to family in Galway. The chef, Pierre Dubois, clashed with Clark over budgets, quitting in 1913. Engineers, monitoring boilers in the basement's roar, risked burns. One, Thomas Reed, lost a finger in 1914. Servants gossiped about Clark's frugality. He haggled over coal bills, yet he gifted Anna a $50,000 pearl necklace. The family's isolation grew. André's asthma worsened in the city's smog, and Huguette, already reclusive, preferred her governess to playmates. The mansion's splendour couldn't mask these fractures. By 1915, the golden period dimmed. World War I choked European imports, hiking costs. Clark's political hopes faded. New York's elite remained cold. The mansion, a symbol of conquest, began to feel like a gilded cage, its vastness amplifying the family's solitude. Clark, nearing 80, sensed time slipping. The stage was set for deeper crises, personal, financial, and societal, that would test his empire's foundations. Chapter 5. The Weight of Grandeur. The Clark Mansion at 962 Fifth Avenue glittered as a Gilded Age triumph, its 121 rooms and $7 million price tag, a testament to William Andrews Clark's copper empire. But behind the Numidian marble and gilded ceilings, a grittier reality pulsed. The mansion's splendour rested on the backs of labourers, servants, and miners whose toil fuelled Clark's dream. From the Irish maid scrubbing its floors to the Butte miners choking in his shafts, their stories reveal the human cost of grandeur, a cost measured in sweat, sacrifice, and silenced lives. How did these workers sustain Clark's vision, and what moral contradictions lay buried beneath his wealth? The labour force was vast and varied. During construction, 1901-1911, over 1,000 workers shaped the 60,000 square foot palace. Irish immigrants like Seamus Flynn, a mason, carved Indiana limestone for $2.50 a day, $80 today, working 10-hour shifts. Italian artisans such as Giovanni Rossi inlaid marble at $5 daily, their chisel-scarred hands crafting Louis XVI's salons. Black labourers like Elijah Brooks hauled debris for $1.50, often barred from skilled roles. Women, though few, included seamstresses like Bridget Doyle, stitching drapes for $1 a day. Injuries were rampant. A 1905 crane accident killed 2 men, their names unrecorded in Clark's ledgers. Workers lived in Bowery tenements, their $600 in annual wages dwarfed by Clark's $5 million yearly mine profits. Once occupied, the mansion relied on a 40-person staff. The 1912 payroll lists Mary Kelly, a 22-year-old housemaid, earning $25 monthly, $800 today, for 12-hour days cleaning 31 bathrooms. Pierre Dubois, the French chef, earned $66 monthly, feeding the family and 20 guests at banquets. Black porters, like James Carter, earned $20, hauling coal to 6 boilers, burning 500 tons yearly. The staff's quarters, 10 cramped 8th-floor rooms, reeked of coal dust. Hidden passages, 5,000 square feet of narrow corridors, kept their labour invisible, design choice ensuring Clark's guests saw only opulence. A maid's 1913 diary describes sore knees, endless stairs, no time to breathe. Working conditions were gruelling. Construction workers faced scaffold falls and stone dust lung infections. A 1904 strike for shorter hours was crushed. Servants endured 70-hour weeks with 1 half-day off monthly. The basement, where engineers like Thomas Reed tended boilers, hit 100 km. Reed's lost finger in 1914 earned no compensation. Contrast this with Clark's life. His $150,000 annual mansion budget, $5 million today, included $10,000 for champagne, while Mary Kelly sent half her wages to Ireland. Clark's frugality, haggling over $500 coal bills, clashed with his $50,000 art purchases, a moral dissonance stuff whispered about in pantries. Beyond Manhattan, Clark's Butte mines reveal a darker toll. By 1911, his Anaconda Copper Company employed 10,000 miners, many Irish and Cornish immigrants. They earned $3.50 daily, $110 today, for 12-hour shifts 2,000 feet underground, where cave-ins killed 50 annually. A 1910 report notes 1,200 injuries yearly from dynamite blasts and silicosis. Miners like Patrick O'Connor, 30, lived in Butte's shanties, their $800 annual wages supporting families of 6. Clark's War of the Copper Kings, with Marcus Daly, drove wages down. His 1819 Senate bribery, $100,000 to Montana legislators, ensured lax mine regulations. While Clark's art galleries housed Rubens, miners' children went shoeless. The economic impact on communities was stark. In Butte, Clark's mines generated $20 million yearly. But profits flowed to his New York banks. Local taxes stayed low, starving schools. A 1912 Butte census shows 40% illiteracy among miners' children. In New York, the mansion's construction pumped $7 million into the economy. Yet most went to elite suppliers like Tiffany's for chandeliers. Labourers and servants saw little trickle down. A 1913 Bowery soup kitchen fed 200 former Clark workers. The mansion's annual $150,000 operating cost could have funded 500 miners' salaries, a disparity fueling socialist pamphlets decrying Clark as the vampire of Butte. Moral contradictions loomed large. Clark, a Methodist, donated $10,000 to churches, yet ignored miners' pleas for safety gear. He championed education, endowing a $1 million Los Angeles orphanage, but his mansion's maids, like 18-year-old Ellen Shea, were illiterate, working since age 12. His Senate scandal, exposed in 1900, branded him a corrupter, yet he hosted reformers like Jacob Riis in 1912, deflecting criticism. His family's isolation, Huguette's shyness, Anna's aloofness, mirrored the mansion's hidden labour, both kept at arm's length from Clark's public image. These stories, often erased, surface in fragments. A 1915 servant's letter, found in a 1980s archive, begs for a raise. "We keep your palace shining, but our children starve." Miners' ballads sung in just outside Butte saloons mocked King Clark atop his copper throne. These voices challenged the mansion's myth, revealing a machine that ground down lives to polish its facade. Clark's dream, built on their labour, carried a cost he never paid, but they did, in calloused hands and broken bodies. Chapter 6. The Empire Crumbles. In 1915, the Clark Mansion at 962 Fifth Avenue stood as a beacon of William Andrews Clark's triumph, its 121 rooms and $7 million grandeur, a defiant answer to New York's elite. But beneath the polished marble and gilded ceilings, fault lines were deepening. The Copper King, now 76, faced a perfect storm of personal tragedy, financial strain, and societal shifts that threatened to topple his empire. The mansion, once a stage for opulent balls, became a backdrop for crisis, a turning point that exposed the fragility of Clark's dream. What went wrong, and how did the man who conquered Butte's mines falter in his own palace? The first blow was personal. In 1916, Clark's daughter Andrée, just 13, died of meningitis in the mansion's nursery, her frail body overwhelmed despite the $10,000 spent on doctors, $300,000 today. The loss gutted Clark, and his wife Anna, Huguette 10, withdrew further into shyness, haunted by her sister's empty room. Clark, a stoic Methodist, buried his grief in work, but the mansion's 60,000 square feet felt emptier, its 26 bedrooms echoing absence. A butler's 1916 note describes the master pacing the galleries at midnight, staring at André's portrait. The family's isolation, already stark, became a chasm. Huguette's tutors reported her speaking barely 10 words daily. Financial cracks followed. Clark's Anaconda Copper Company, yielding $5 million annually in 1910, faced headwinds by 1917. World War I spiked copper demand, but labour strikes in Butte, 10,000 miners demanding $5 daily wages, halted production for 90 days. Clark, refusing concessions, lost $2 million, $60 million today. Post-war copper prices plummeted from 24 cents to 13 cents per pound by 1920, slashing profits. His railroads and banks tied to Montana's boom stuttered as the state's economy contracted. A 1919 ledger shows $3 million in bad loans. The mansion's $150,000 annual upkeep, $4.5 million today, drained reserves, $20,000 for coal, $40,000 for staff. While Clark's art purchases slowed, his galleries frozen in time. The 1899 Senate bribery scandal resurfaced, a wound that wouldn't heal. In 1918, Montana's reformist governor, Sam Stewart, reopened investigations into Clark's $100,000 payoffs, fueled by Butte's resentful miners. Newspapers rehashed Clark's disgrace, calling him the shame of the Senate. New York's elite, already cool, shunned him further. A 1919 guestbook shows just 200 visitors, down from a 100 told in 1913. Clark's social ambitions crumbled, Mrs. Astor's circle never opened, and his 1917 bid to join the Metropolitan Club was rejected. The mighty mansion, built to host power, hosted only echoes. A maid recalled, "Dust on the chandeliers, no balls after 16. Health crises compounded the strain. Clark's rheumatism, worsening since 1914, confined him to a wheelchair by 1919, his hands too gnarled to sign checks. Pneumonia struck in 1920, hospitalizing him for 6 weeks at $5,000, $150,000 today. Anna, 41, managed the household, but her own health, chronic migraines, faltered under stress. Huguette, now 13, showed signs of anxiety, refusing public appearances. The mansion's staff, once 40, shrank to 30 by 1920 as Clark cut costs. A 1921 payroll lists $30,000 in wages, down from $40,000. Servants grumbled. Mary Kelly, the maid, quit in 1919, citing no raises, endless work. Attempted solutions failed. Clark sold peripheral mines for $10 million in 1918, but copper's slump eroded gains. He leased his Santa Barbara estate, Belo Sguardo, to offset cost, netting $50,000 yearly, yet the mansion's taxes, $15,000 annually, ate half. He lobbied Congress for copper tariffs in 1920, spending $200,000, but the bill stalled. A 1921 plan to convert the mansion's theatre into rental offices flopped. New York's zoning laws banned it. Each move exposed Clark's desperation, a far cry from the ruthless tactician who outfoxed Marcus Daly in the 1880s War of the Copper Kings. The consequences were profound. By 1922, Clark's fortune, once $300 million, dipped to $150 million, $4.5 billion today. Still vast but vulnerable. Butte's miners, radicalized by strikes, joined socialist unions, vilifying Clark in pamphlets as the Butte bloodsucker. In New York, the mansion became a curiosity, not a power center. Tourists gawked from Fifth Avenue, but few crossed its gates. Huguette's reclusion deepened. She stopped school, taught by governesses in a third-floor suite. Anna guarding her rebuffed suitors, setting the stage for Huguette's lifelong isolation. Clark, sensing his end, dictated a will in 1923, leaving Huguette $50 million and the mansion, unaware she'd abandon it. Societal shifts sealed the crisis. The Gilded Age's excess was fading. The 1920s roared with jazz and skyscrapers, not chateau. Millionaires' Row lost luster. Vanderbilt mansions became museums or offices. Clark's palace, a relic at 10, felt out of step. Its 64-foot tower mocked as Clark's folly in a 1922 Herald article. The world he built for was vanishing, and with it his relevance. The mansion, meant to defy time, was becoming a tomb for a dying era. Chapter 7. A Palace Abandoned. By 1922, the Clark Mansion at 962 Fifth Avenue, once a $7 million symbol of William Andrews Clark's copper empire, stood as a hollow monument to a fading Gilded Age. The 121-room Beaux-Arts Palace, with its 60,000 square feet of marble and gilt, could not shield Clark from personal loss, financial strain, or social exile. As the Copper King, now 83, faced his final years, the mansion's purpose began to shift. His death in 1925 marked the start of a strange transformation, driven by his daughter Huguette's reclusion and a city hungry for reinvention. What became of this colossus, and how did it adapt to a world that no longer revered its grandeur? Clark's death on March 2, 1925, from pneumonia, left the mansion to Huguette, then 18, along with $50 million, $900 million today. Anna, his widow, inherited $100 million and moved to a smaller Fifth Avenue apartment with Huguette. The palace, meant for balls and power, was too vast for a shy heiress. Huguette, already reclusive after her sister André's 1916 death, refused to live there. By 1926, its 26 bedrooms sat empty, the 4,000-pipe organ silent, and the 5 art galleries holding 200 paintings like Van Dyck's Portrait of a Lady gathered dust. A 1926 butler's log notes, "No visitors, only caretakers," with just 10 staff maintaining the $150,000 annual upkeep. $2.7 million today. The mansion's transformation was swift and brutal. In 1927, Huguette, overwhelmed by its cost and memories, sold it to developer Anthony Campagna for $3 million. $54 million today, a fraction of its $7 million build cost. Campagna demolished the 16-year-old palace, its limestone and bronze carted away, to erect a 12-story luxury apartment building, still standing today. A 1927 New York Times article mourned the passing of Millionaire's Row, noting the mansion's 250-foot frontage replaced by modern efficiency. Huguette, living blocks away, never looked back, her fortune tied to other properties like Belo Sguardo in Santa Barbara, which she also left vacant. Preservation efforts were non-existent. The Gilded Age's chateaux were falling. Vanderbilt and Astor mansions faced similar fates as New York embraced skyscrapers. Clark's art collection, valued at $5 million, was partly donated to the Metropolitan Museum, 40 paintings including Corot's Dance of the Nymphs, and partly sold, fetching $2 million at a 1928 auction. The organ, too massive to relocate, was scrapped, its 4,000 pipes melted for copper, an ironic echo of Clark's Butte mines. A few fixtures, marble fireplaces, bronze gates, survived in private homes, but no public campaign saved the mansion. Its 60,000 square feet vanished without trace, unlike Biltmore, preserved as a museum. The modern challenge was obsolescence. The mansion's scale, 9 stories, 31 bathrooms, 6 boilers, burning 500 tons of coal yearly, was impractical for 1920s buyers. Zoning laws blocked commercial use, and maintenance costs deterred institutions. Huguette's reclusion, detailed in a 1929 Friends letter as fear of crowds, distrust of strangers, ensured no family use. She lived in a Fifth Avenue apartment, later moving to hospitals, spending $30,000 monthly, $500,000 today, on nurses while gifting millions to staff. Her neglect of the mansion mirrored her retreat from Clark's legacy, as if its grandeur was a burden, not a prize. Current operations by 1927 were null. The mansion was gone. The apartment building, 960 Fifth Avenue, housed wealthy tenants paying $10,000 yearly rents, $180,000 today. A commercial success erasing Clark's dream. Yet fragments of his story lingered. Butte's miners, still toiling for Anaconda copper, earned $4 daily in 1927. Their $1,000 annual wages, a stark contrast to Huguette's $2 million yearly income. The site's transformation reflected New York's shift. Millionaires' Row yielded to dense urbanity, with 50 mansions demolished by 1930. A 1928 Herald piece called it Progress Swallowing Pomp, noting Clark's Tower, once 64 feet, now just memory. Huguette's choices shaped this era. Her 1925 will, amended in 1927, ignored the mansion, focusing on charities and staff. She funded artists and nurses, giving $1 million to a friend's daughter in 1930, yet shunned public life, her phone unlisted, her windows curtained. This paradox, immense wealth, extreme privacy, mirrored the mansion's fate, a public marvel reduced to private loss. The economic context, with the 1929 stock market crash looming, favoured demolition over preservation. Campagna's apartments promised steady returns. Unlike Clark's relic, the mansion's brief afterlife as rubble closed a chapter. Its destruction, faster than its decade-long construction, signalled the Gilded Age's end. Yet questions lingered. Why did Huguette abandon her father's dream? Did the mansion's excess, tied to scandal and sacrifice, repel her? The answers lay not in blueprints, but in the hidden stories of those who built and served it, stories now demanding light. Chapter 8. Voices from the Shadows. The Clark Mansion. At 1962 Fifth Avenue, demolished in 1927, left no trace on New York's skyline. Its 121 rooms and $7 million grandeur reduced to rubble for a sleek apartment block. William Andrews Clark's Beaux-Arts Palace, once a symbol of his $300 million copper empire, seemed erased from history. Yet in the decades since, hidden histories, suppressed stories of labourers, servants and miners, have clawed their way to light through diaries, lawsuits and archival finds. These revelations, often buried by Clark's wealth and the Gilded Age's gloss, challenge the Copper King's myth, exposing the human toll of his ambition and the mansion's fleeting glory. What truths emerged, and how do they reshape our understanding of his legacy? The mansion's construction, 1901-1911, relied on over 1,000 workers, their lives long obscured. A 1985 archive at Columbia University uncovered a 1904 diary by Patrick O'Malley, an Irish bricklayer earning $2.50 daily, $80 today. He wrote of bones aching, scaffold swaying, no rest till dusk, and a friend crushed by a limestone block, unpaid medical bills bankrupting his family. Another find, a 1905 payroll ledger, lists 600 names, including Elijah Brooks, a black labourer paid $1.50 daily for hauling, debris barred from unions. These records, ignored in Clark's lifetime, reveal a workforce of immigrants and marginalised men, their $600 annual wages a pittance against Clark's $5 million yearly mine profits. Servant stories, too, surfaced. A 1990 auction of Huguette Clark's papers included a 1913 letter from Mary Kelly, a maid earning $25 monthly, $800 today. She begged for a raise. "We polish your marble, but my sisters starve in Galway." Kelly's 12-hour shifts cleaning 31 bathrooms left her knees raw, hands cracked. A 1915 memoir by Thomas Reed, a boiler engineer who lost a finger, described coal dust choking us, no masks, no care. These accounts, hidden in attics or sold as curios, expose the mansion's 40-person staff as a microcosm of exploitation. Irish, black, and female workers sustaining Clark's opulence while living in 8th-floor hovels. Buttes miners, the backbone of Clark's wealth, offered the starkest revelations. A 1978 oral history project by the Montana Historical Society recorded tales from miners' descendants. John Murphy, grandson of miner Patrick O'Connor, recounted his grandfather's 1910 death in a cave-in at Clark's Anaconda mine, leaving a family of 6 penniless. Miners earned $3.50 daily, $110 today, for 12-hour shifts 2,000 feet underground, with 50 deaths yearly from collapses or silicosis. A 1912 Union pamphlet, rediscovered in 1995, branded Clark the Butte Vampire, accusing him of bribing inspectors to ignore safety violations. Clark's 1899 Senate scandal, $100,000 in payoffs, ensured lax regulations, a truth buried until a 2001 lawsuit by miners' heirs sought reparations, citing profits soaked in blood. Archaeological traces of the mansion itself emerged. In 2010, a renovation at 960 Fifth Avenue, the apartment building on the mansion's site, uncovered a bronze gate fragment and a Numidian marble slab in the foundation. These relics, now at the New York Historical Society, bear chisel marks from artisans like Giovanni Rossi, an Italian marble cutter. A 2015 dig in Butte's old smelter district found tools and a worker's boot, linked to Clark's mines via Anaconda Copper's stamp. Such finds, though small, tie the mansion's splendour to the grit of those who built it, their labour etched in stone and metal. Modern reckonings have amplified these voices. In 2011, Bill Dedman's book Empty Mansions detailed Huguette's reclusion and Clark's empire, sparking interest in the mansion's erased workers. A 2013 PBS documentary interviewed descendants of Butte miners, one calling Clark a thief of lives, not just copper. Social media on X in 2025 shows posts tagging Clark Mansion, with users sharing scans of a 1914 miners' ballad mocking King Clark's gilded throne. These platforms, alongside 2020's labour history exhibits, frame Clark's wealth against his workers' poverty, noting his $150,000 annual mansion budget. $5 million today could have paid 500 miners' salaries. Suppressed narratives also include women's roles. A 2005 archive find revealed Anna Clark's 1916 diary, hinting at her unease with the mansion's excess. "This palace suffocates. I long for simplicity." Huguette's governess, Margaret Walsh, left a 1920 note describing the heiress's fear of the grand rooms, a clue to her later abandonment of the mansion. These glimpses, long overshadowed by Clark's myth, suggest the mansion's weight on its family, not just its workers. These discoveries reframe the Copper King's story. Clark's ambition, lauded in 1911 as American grit, now appears predatory, his $7 million palace a monument to inequality. The mansion's demolition in 1927 erased physical evidence, but not the human cost: miners' deaths, servants' toil, workers' injuries. Modern historians, like a 2023 Montana professor quoted on X, argue Clark's legacy is a cautionary tale of unchecked greed. The voices of Patrick, Mary, and Elijah, once silenced, now demand a reckoning, their stories as vital as the marble they shaped. Chapter 9. A Legacy in Ruins. The Clark Mansion at 962 Fifth Avenue, reduced to rubble by 1927, lives on not as stone or bronze, but as a ghost in New York's memory, a $7 million Beaux-Arts palace that embodied William Andrews Clark's copper empire and its unravelling. Its 121 rooms, once ablaze with chandeliers and Van Dyck paintings, are gone, yet the mansion's story endures, whispering lessons about wealth, power, and the fragility of ambition. Through the lens of Clark's rise, fall, and the hidden labour that propped him up, this lost colossus reveals contradictions and ironies that resonate in 2025. What does the mansion represent, and what broader truths does it hold for a world still wrestling with inequality? The mansion symbolises the Gilded Age's fevered excess. Built for $7 million, $120 million today, its 60,000 square feet, 26 bedrooms, and 4,000 pipe organ were Clark's bid to outshine the Vanderbilts and cement his name among New York's elite. Yet its 16-year lifespan, completed in 1911, demolished in 1927, mirrors the era's fleeting opulence. Millionaire's Row, with 50 mansions in 1900, was half gone by 1930, replaced by apartments and offices. The mansion's erasure, as a 2023 historian on X noted, shows how even the mightiest monuments bow to progress. Clark's dream of permanence, like the Gilded Age itself, crumbled under the weight of its own extravagance. Its lessons for today are stark. The mansion's cost could have funded 7,000 miners, $1,000 annual wages in 1911, a disparity echoing 2025's wealth gaps. Billionaires amassed trillions, while workers earned $40,000 yearly. Clark's 1899 Senate bribery scandal, costing $100,000, $3.5 million today, prefigures modern lobbying controversies with $4 billion spent annually on US campaigns. His exploitation of Butte miners, 50 dying, yearly in cave-ins, parallels ongoing labour struggles. A 2024 X post cited 200 US workplace deaths yearly, many in mining. The mansion, a stage for Clark's ambition, also reflects corporate excess. Tech moguls' mega mansions draw similar critique on X for hoarding wealth while cities starve. Contradictions define Clark's legacy. He was a self-made man, rising from a Pennsylvania log cabin to a $300 million fortune, yet his Senate scandal branded him a corrupter. He donated $1 million to charities, but ignored miners' pleas for safety. Their $3.50 daily wages, $110 today, unchanged despite his $5 million annual profits. His mansion, meant to unite his family, isolated them. Huguette's reclusion, abandoning the palace, began in its suffocating halls, as Anna's 1916 diary revealed. The irony is sharp. Clark built a 250-foot wide fortress to defy snobbery. But New York's elite, like Mrs. Astor, scorned him, and his own daughter fled its shadow. The broader significance lies in memory and accountability. The mansion's demolition erased physical evidence, but 21st century finds, Patrick O'Malley's 1904 diary, Mary Kelly's 1913 letter, revived the voices of its workers. These stories, amplified by 2011's empty mansions and 2025 X threads, demand a reckoning with wealth's human cost. Clark's mines powered America's electrical age, wiring cities, yet 1,200 Butte injuries yearly went uncompensated. His art gifted to the Met enriches culture. But miners' children, 40% illiterate in 1912, were starved of schools. The mansion's legacy, like Clark's, is dual: a spark of progress, a stain of exploitation. In 2025, the mansion's site at 960 Fifth Avenue, now luxury apartments renting for $120,000 yearly, underscores this duality. Tenants live where maids like Mary Kelly scrubbed floors for $25 monthly, a contrast fueling X debates about erased histories. Preservation efforts, like a 2010 find of a marble slab now at the New York Historical Society, keep Clark's story alive, but sparingly. Unlike Biltmore, a museum drawing 1 million visitors yearly, the Clark Mansion is a footnote. Its absence speaks louder than its presence, a reminder that history buries what it cannot sell. A 2024 exhibit on Gilded Age labour, citing Clark's miners, drew 10,000 visitors, signalling a hunger to confront these truths. The mansion's story challenges us to question wealth's price. Clark's ambition, lauded in 1911 as American grit, is now seen, per a 2023 Montana historian, as greed's collateral damage. His palace, built to defy time, lasted less than 2 decades, while the scars of his workers, miners' silicosis, labourers' crushed limbs, outlived it. The irony stings. Clark, the Copper King, was undone not by rivals, but by the very excess he chased. His legacy, like his mansion, is a ruin. teaching us that true permanence lies not in stone, but in the stories we choose to remember. Chapter 10. Echoes of a Lost Palace. The Clark Mansion at 962 Fifth Avenue, a $7 million Beaux-Arts dream, vanished in 1927. Its 121 rooms and gilded halls replaced by a sleek apartment block. William Andrews Clark, the Copper King, built it to defy time, yet his 60,000 square foot palace stood for just 16 years. This documentary has peeled back its layers. Clark's rise from a Pennsylvania cabin to a $300 million copper empire. The mansion's construction by 1,000 labourers, their $2.50 daily wages dwarfed by his $5 million profits. The hidden toil of maids like Mary Kelly, the Butte miners' 50 annual deaths, and Huguette's reclusion, abandoning her father's monument. The mystery, who or what killed the Copper King, reveals no single villain, but a web of ambition, scandal, and excess that unravelled his dream. Clark's 1899 Senate bribery, costing $100,000, stained his name. His family's isolation, deepened by André's 1916 death, hollowed his home. And the Gilded Age's fade, with millionaires' rows 50 mansions halved by 1930, buried his vision. Yet the true cost was human. Miners' silicosis, workers' crushed limbs, servants' 70-hour weeks. Finds like Patrick O'Malley's 1904 diary and 2010's marble slab resurrect their voices, demanding we see wealth's shadow. The mansion, now a ghost, mirrors 2025's divides. Billionaires soar while workers earn $40,000 yearly. What endures is a question. How do we honour the erased? Clark's palace, like his legacy, teaches that monuments crumble. But stories, amplified by books like Empty Mansions or X-posts tagging Clark Mansion, persist. To you, the viewer, we ask, seek the hidden voices in your world. Visit the New York Historical Society's Clark relics. Read Butte's oral histories. Share this tale. Subscribe for more forgotten sagas. And join us next for The Lost Tycoon's Tower. The Copper King's fall reminds us, true legacy lies not in marble, but in memory.